How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the latest edition of the Brock of the Buzzer podcast. As you can tell, I can already hear the audible, Brock switched teams again. Yeah, I did. Okay? I'm just going to be open and honest about it. Yeah, I did. But on this show, I will tell you exactly why I've done that. We're going to talk about the Cubs being very hot. And yes, this is a Pete Crow Armstrong jersey I have on for this episode. And we're going to talk about what's ahead for the Chicago Cubs and why I chose them. But we're going to kick off the show with a short little Sabres segment because, oh my God, the Sabres did something. And that was signing Peyton Krebs. I mean, I'm going to just be bluntly honest. The talk about the Sabres trading for Connor Hellebuyck, which to this very moment that I'm recording this show, hasn't happened yet. The signing of possibly Patrick Kane has not happened, and both things have become very annoying to listen to talk about. So we are not going to talk about those things on this show because they haven't happened yet. And in my last show, I felt like all I was talking about was Connor Hellebuyck. It hasn't happened yet. So what else is there to say? Nothing. Because again, it hasn't happened yet. But the one thing that has happened is the Sabres yesterday signed Peyton Krebs to a 4-year deal with an AAV of $4.5 million per season. As you can tell, I'm not very excited. But, again, the majority of this episode is focused on my new MLB home in Chicago with the Chicago Cubs, led, of course, by my favorite player in the entire sport, Mr. Pete Henry Crow Armstrong. Yeah, I just government named Pete Crow Armstrong on this podcast. But we'll get onto him in a little bit. Because as I said, I got to talk about the Sabres re-signing Peyton Krebs. Yesterday, the Buffalo Sabres announced that they have re-signed, to avoid arbitration, Peyton Krebs to a 4-year, $4.5 million annual average value per season for the next 4 seasons. Last year, Krebs totaled a total of 39 points, 12 goals, and 27 assists in all 82 games last year for the Sabres. My opinion, Peyton Krebs is the Sabres' Swiss Army knife in the fact that you can play him absolutely anywhere in the lineup. But is he worth $4.5 million under the current NHL salary cap structure? The answer to that question is simply no. But this contract, along with many others signed so far this offseason, including Beck Malenstein's, a contract that has been universally praised by Sabres fans. Yes, it was a lengthy contract for Beck Malenstein, 6 years at roughly $3.2 million AAV, but I think this contract, like so many others, like I said, shows the influx of cash flow going into the NHL thanks to the NHL's new TV deal that was signed last season, in which hasn't really impacted the cap all that much yet, but starting next year, the TV money will impact the NHL's salary cap. So you're going to have to pay everybody more money, including your fourth liners, like Peyton Krebs will be on this team most likely. $4.5 million. So us fans have to start thinking with a new mindset. But again, do I think Peyton Krebs is worth $4.5 million over the next 4 seasons? No. Again, yet another quote-unquote core piece for the Buffalo Sabres as they move forward, joining the aforementioned Beck Malenstein, Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, Josh Doan, Zach Benson, all under long-term contracts as we move forward into the newest era of Buffalo Sabres hockey, one that rewarded us right away with a playoff berth, and I'm excited to see where this team goes for many years to come. Now, the meat and the bones of this show, Sweet Home Chicago, baby. Why Chicago? If you ask anyone in my inner circle, I'm talking to you, John Donahue, who I know will listen to this podcast at some point. John, tell everybody in the comments, who is my favorite player in the entire MLB? The answer is and will be, for the foreseeable future, again, Mr. Pete Crow Armstrong. Why? It's pretty simple why. Because he is the true definition of a 5-tool player that has power, can hit for average, can steal bases for you, plays phenomenal Gold Glove defense out in center field, and he will do whatever it takes to win a game that night, and will continue to do that night after night after night for all 162. The second reason is the history of the organization. The organization was founded in 1876. They are celebrating their 150th season this year. Playing at the same field since 1914, Wrigley Field. And thirdly, the similarities between Cubs fans and us Buffalo sports fans are eerily similar to each other. The Cubs and Buffalo sports, besides the Bandits, of course, have lived under this quote-unquote curse of never winning a championship. Of course, the Chicago Cubs broke that in 2016, winning the World Series against then the Cleveland Indians. Oh wait, am I supposed to say that on this podcast? Now known as the Cleveland Guardians. But with that said, as Buffalo sports fans, Chicago Cubs fans will understand this. Us Buffalo fans have been waiting decades for our moment in the sun as champions. But one common thread between all 3 fan bases is this: the loyalty has never wavered within those 3 organizations. And for those of you who want to sit there and question my loyalty, the team swapping in all sports ends now, because I'm with the organization and, more importantly, the player that I want to be with for his entire Major League Baseball career. End of story. That is the truth, and there's nothing more to say other than to prove my doubters wrong. Again, much like I did in the NBA when I chose to be with my guy, 2-time NBA MVP. I know we're not covering basketball on this podcast, but it rings true to this. 2-time NBA MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2025 NBA Finals MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, And, of course, 2025 NBA champion. When did I know he was going to be good? 2020 in the bubble. Enough said. Enough, Shay, because this is not a basketball podcast anymore. But, with that all said, I cannot wait, seriously, where this journey takes me, especially being an outsider from Buffalo who has fallen in love with the game of baseball, especially over the last year and a half, because of in my opinion, a generational talent in Pete Armstrong, an organization that is as historic as the Chicago Cubs, and that they play in a place that I only dream of being in one day, hopefully next year, if a lockout doesn't happen. And where am I talking once again? Wrigley Field. A place where, honestly, I've always wanted to go to. A place that my father, who's currently watching the MLB All-Star Game, like a loser, but where my father would also love to go as well. And he knows this too, people. He knows how much I love Pete Crow Armstrong. Doesn't make him sick. He doesn't doubt my ability to be a journalist. He knows I can do this. So I'm going to prove to you all that I'm going to do this. And I'm going to put my best foot forward and stay loyal to you, Cubs fans, because that's who I'm doing this for, Cubs fans. Even though I'm from Buffalo, New York, and not Chicago, Illinois, I'm going to do my very, very best because I'm confident that I'm one of the, that I can be one of the best journalists to come out of this little town here in Buffalo. I know it's big shoes, big talk, and I just got to back it up, and I've got nothing but belief in myself that I can do that. But on to the actual sports talk of this show. The Cubs are currently red hot, headed into the All-Star break following Sunday's 8-4 win in Cincinnati over the Cincinnati Reds. Yet another series win for the Chicago Cubs, who are 20-8 their last 28 games, and have concluded or had concluded a 6-game road trip both in Baltimore, my dad's favorite team, and the Cincinnati Reds, going 4-2, closing the gap on the NL Central division rival leading Milwaukee Brewers, who lost 3 in Pittsburgh over the weekend. And with that said, the Chicago Cubs were able to decrease their lead in the NL Central standings to just 5 games, with roughly 68 or 69 games remaining. I think it's 68, but I don't have it in my notes. I should have, but it's 60. I believe it is 68 games remaining in the 2026 MLB regular season. And the Brewers got a lot of bad news this past weekend regarding their 3 best starting pitchers, Jacob Misiorowski, Kyle Harrison, and Brandon Woodruff were all lost this weekend due to injury. Misiorowski, who is not expected to pitch in the opening series once they come out of the break due to dead arm, he is being held out of tonight's MLB All-Star Game in Philadelphia because of the injury. So again, bad news for the Milwaukee Brewers. Kyle Harrison was also just placed on the 15-day IL, and Brandon Woodruff, who has had shoulder issues for what seems the last 2 years now, is yet back on the 60-day IL with shoulder inflammation. And why are the Cubs in a mix of a 20-8 stretch and had a very solid week in Baltimore in Cincinnati before the All-Star festivities this week in Philadelphia. The Stars are being stars. Finally, Pete Crow Armstrong, who is the second best player in the National League this year, behind only the Japanese god Shohei Ohtani. And the stats prove it. His average is .291, just under 300. I think he can get there. He has 21 bombs, and he drove in 53 runs in the de facto first half of the MLB season, while stealing 24 bases and having an OPS of .917. Very solid from PCA, and Alex Bregman is starting to heat up. Over the last 7 games, encompassing the entire road trip, he hit .241 with 2 home runs and 10 RBIs, rising his numbers so far this season after getting off to a sluggish start for a guy who was slated to essentially replace Kyle Tucker, but Kyle Tucker's been awful in Los Angeles so far this season. He, during the 7-game stretch, has risen his totals to an average of .241 with 9 home runs and 41 driven in. Along with those two, Michael Busch is also heating up. Yeah, the power numbers aren't there just yet, but if you look at the average, a solid .333 with 2 ribbies, and has an on-base percentage of .433, which means he's not only hitting the ball, he's drawing walks as well, and that has been a big part of Bushy's game all season long for Chicago, bringing his totals up to .239, 11 home runs, and 49. Let me repeat that one more time. I'm not sure if I said this right, but if I did, I apologize. But let me repeat it one more time. Michael Busch, his numbers headed into the All-Star break are as follows: .239 average, 11 home runs, and 49 driven in for Bushy. Now, the player who was in the middle of it all the last week, Seiya Suzuki. Seiya Suzuki hit .276 over his last 7 games with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs with an on-base percentage of .300, bringing his season totals to .268 to a .268 average on the season with 15 home runs and 48 driven in. And another reason why the Cubs are so hot is they are making do with a bullpen hodgepodge of guys that were not even on this roster to start the season. As of right now, the Cubs have 11 pitchers in total from the starting rotation to the bullpen on the injured list, which doesn't sound pretty. It's not pretty. But the guys who they've called upon, 2 in particular that I'll spotlight in just a second, but let's include the others as well. The Ryan Rollisons, the Caleb Thielbars, the Tyler Fergusons, the etc. The bullpen right now has been solid considering the circumstances. Yes, the last 7 games, the ERA is above 5. Okay, whoop-de-doo. That's what you're going to get with a hodgepodge of a bullpen. It just is what it is, Cubs fans. And you're going to have to deal with it probably for the rest of the season, especially if Jed Hoyer doesn't make a bullpen move, which in my opinion is very unlikely here at the trade deadline here coming up in just a few short weeks. With that said, I want to shout out 2 guys in particular. Jacob Webb, who has been tremendous all season for the Chicago Cubs out of the bullpen. And as of late, Trent Thornton has been the de facto closer, especially with Daniel Palencia on the IL, who is not slated to return until after the All-Star break and a few weeks beyond that. So don't expect him to see him this weekend and beyond. And those two on the trip were absolute nails. They pitched to a combined 0.75 ERA. And to conclude the episode, I want to tell you guys what's ahead for the Cubs in the second half of the season. They start off with this 6-game homestand against two teams that are playing very well themselves. The Minnesota Twins. Yes, I know that Byron Buxton is currently on the IL, but is slated to have a very short stint on the IL, and this break will obviously help him. So it wouldn't shock me if Byron Buxton plays this weekend. And talking to my cousin here, Will Andrich, please read your sources. Please, just type in MLB.com/injury report. It'll tell you that Byron Buxton's injury is not serious. It'll tell you that he has a chance of playing this weekend against the Cubs. And I'd be shocked if he doesn't. Stunned. Because as you know, Will, your Guardians are tied with the Minnesota Twins for the AL wild card spot, so you need these games against us. But you're going to lose 2 out of 3. But they're going to lose 2 out of 3, so you better win this weekend, Will. You better win this weekend because the Cubs are very good at home, and they have been all season. And then they welcome in yet another AL Central team featuring rookie phenom all-star Kevin McGonigal in the Detroit Tigers. And again, as we look forward, as I said earlier in the show, the next key date on the MLB calendar is the August 3rd trade deadline. I don't know why it's on a Monday. I think it's really stupid that it's on a Monday. But I will focus squarely on that in my next podcast, as I know today is not Saturday. But again, I didn't record one this past weekend because I was, watching the Cubs. I was preparing this show because everyone thought I was going to stick with the Blue Jays when I wasn't having fun. When the Blue Jays fell to last in the AL East standings, I had no vested interest in a player, and I thought, I'm not happy. I'm going to fix this. And yet again, I make a great decision, just like I did in Oklahoma City about a year and a half ago. It's worked in spades so far. So those of you who keep on saying, oh, Brock's not going to stay with the Cubs, Brock's going to move again, Brock's going to do this all over again. No. Wherever Pete Armstrong goes, I'm going with him. Until, of course, hopefully, I get paid by these guys right here, these Chicago Cubs right here, to do what I love to do. So, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And all my social media links are down in the Linktree link down below. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Go Cubs, go. And I'll see you all on the next episode of the Rock the Buzzer podcast.